They weren't soldiers, they weren't trained for battle. But when Nazi boots stomped through their streets, they fought back anyway. Not with guns, at least not at first, but with sabotage, espionage, and sheer defiance. The Dutch resistance was one of the most daring underground movements of World War II, yet their full story has rarely been told. Until now. When the Nazis invaded the Netherlands in May 1940, it seemed like the Dutch people had no choice but to submit. Their country was overrun in just 5 days. But while the government fled, countless ordinary citizens decided they weren't going to roll over and accept life under Hitler's rule. Students, shopkeepers, housewives, even children. They became part of a secret war against the occupiers. But how did they do it? How did civilians stand up to one of the most brutal military machines in history? And what happened to those who were caught? Let's uncover the untold stories of the Dutch resistance fighters, the forgotten heroes of World War II. The German invasion of the Netherlands was swift and devastating. Within 5 days, the Dutch military surrendered, and Queen Wilhelmina, along with her government, fled to Britain. The Nazis wasted no time tightening their grip, implementing strict laws, censoring the press, and systematically targeting Jewish citizens. At first, many Dutch citizens hoped to simply survive. The Netherlands had been neutral in World War I, and some believed they could stay out of major conflict this time too. But when the Nazis began arresting political opponents, targeting Jews, and forcing Dutch industries to serve the German war effort, resistance started to grow. But fighting back wasn't easy. The Gestapo and Dutch collaborators were ruthless in hunting down anyone who opposed the regime. The Dutch had to be smart, careful, and above all, fearless. The Dutch resistance didn't begin with guns and bombs. It started with small acts of defiance. The February strike in 1941. One of the first mass protests against Nazi rule in all of occupied Europe, the February strike was triggered by the brutal rounding up of Jewish citizens in Amsterdam. Dock workers, tram drivers, and ordinary people refused to work in a powerful display of solidarity. The Nazis responded with brutal force, but the strike proved that the Dutch were not going to submit without a fight. Underground newspapers. The Nazis controlled all official media, so resistance fighters created underground newspapers like Het Parool and De Waarheid, spreading uncensored news and warnings about Nazi plans. These papers were copied in secret, distributed at night, and read in whispers. Forged documents and identity theft. The Nazis demanded identification from everyone, making it almost impossible for Jewish citizens or resistance members to move freely. So, Dutch forgers got to work. They created fake IDs, ration cards, and travel permits, saving thousands of lives by giving new identities to those in danger. As the occupation dragged on, resistance efforts escalated. Groups like the Landelijke Knokploegen, or National Assault Groups, and De Ondergrondzee, the Underground, took things to the next level. Sabotage operations became more frequent. Railroads were blown up, bridges destroyed, and German supply lines cut. The Dutch railway workers famously went on strike in 1944, halting Nazi troop movements and supplies. Spying on the Nazis was another critical activity. Resistance members infiltrated Nazi offices, stole documents, and smuggled intelligence to the Allies. Radio operators secretly transmitted Nazi troop movements to Britain, despite the constant risk of being caught and executed. Rescuing Allied pilots was yet another brave endeavor. When Allied planes were shot down over Dutch territory, resistance members worked tirelessly to rescue the pilots before the Nazis could capture them. They provided safe houses, medical care, and escape routes, often at great personal risk. One of the most legendary resistance fighters was Hannie Schaft, a young university student turned deadly assassin. Nicknamed the Girl with the Red Hair, she targeted high-ranking Nazis and Dutch collaborators, carrying out daring attacks with cool precision. Hannie's resistance work was so effective that she became one of the Nazis' most wanted individuals. Even after being captured, she refused to betray her comrades. She was executed just weeks before the end of the war, but her legacy lives on as one of the bravest women in World War II resistance history. The Nazis knew they had a problem with the Dutch resistance, and they responded with terrifying force. Mass arrests and executions. Resistance members were hunted down, tortured, and executed. The infamous Haren prison became a place of horror for captured fighters. The tragedy of Putin in 1944. After resistance fighters attacked a German officer, the Nazis retaliated by rounding up nearly the entire male population of the village of Putin. 600 men were deported to concentration camps, only a handful ever returned. Perhaps the most well-known victim of Nazi repression, Anne Frank and her family were hiding with the help of Dutch citizens before they were betrayed and sent to concentration camps. By 1944, the Allies were advancing, and the Dutch resistance played a crucial role in preparing for liberation. Operation Market Garden. The resistance provided critical intelligence and assisted Allied paratroopers during the failed but daring operation to take key bridges. The Hunger Winter of 1944-45. In retaliation for resistance efforts, the Nazis cut off food supplies to major Dutch cities. Thousands starved, but the resistance continued smuggling food and medicine to those in need. The Dutch resistance was one of the most courageous underground movements in World War II. They weren't trained soldiers, they were teachers, students, parents, and children who refused to give in to tyranny. Many paid the ultimate price for their bravery, but their actions helped weaken the Nazi grip on the Netherlands and save countless lives. Today, their stories serve as a reminder that even in the darkest times, ordinary people can rise up and fight for what is right. Want more Untold World War II stories? Subscribe now.